Jethro Tull and Iron Maiden, two grand old bands that been around for a long time, recorded a ton of music, made big tours, big stage productions, very special and unique music for both of them. While some people may raise an eyebrow on combining these two bands, I think that they do belong together, and their stories are similar enough or have enough parallels, both musically and with the details surrounding the music, that it's worth combining them. At least that's what I think. They both have bombastic stage productions. They both belong to one specific musical style, but they venture out enough that they are considered unique within their group, if you will, or their niche, as people like to say these days. Jethro Tull is typically understood or described as a progressive rock band, but it does have some heavy metal elements, and of course Iron Maiden are very squarely in the heavy metal, let's just say, group or realm or universe, but they also have some quite proggy elements. And so this was Jethro Tull with their first album, This Was, and that's exactly what Ian Anderson, their leader, described this album as. This was Jethro Tull, a snapshot of what they were in that time. This is their first record, and it's quite a good record. Might not be their best, might not be immediately grabbing you. The only great song that that is kind of anthemic or very easily recognizable is My Sunday Feeling. They play to this day, but it has quite a number of good numbers, if you will, on this record. You have Serenade to a Cuckoo, which is really a jazz standard, Quiet Squirrel, a Song for Jeffrey. So all in all, a good record. It has Mick Abrams, the guitarist who later on went on to establish Bloodwind Pig. Very bluesy guy, not only kind of bluesy proggy. And this was his last and only, of course, record with Jethro Tull. Next up is Stand Up. Amazing record. This one is banger from beginning to end. A really very special, very well made, well played, well everything, well produced, well packaged, well written. The songs are great, the songs are memorable, the music is good. This is what the album looks like on the inside, and one after the other. I just have to rattle you the songs as they are. It's even difficult to pick favorites, but I would say For a Thousand Mothers really stand out. Nothing Is Easy, of course, A New Day Yesterday, the opening song, Fat Man, great. Beret, that's a very famous, based on a Bach composition, Look Into the Sun. All the songs are here. First record with Martin Barre. I say his name Barre, but everyone I meet says his name a little bit differently, so it's spelled Barre. To me it sounds kind of like a French kind of name, so I call him Martin Barre because I don't really have a better way to pronounce his name. And he would stay with the band for a very long time, and in my opinion Jethro Tull is not really Jethro Tull without the benefit of Martin Barre. And this record also is an absolute banger, a great classic record. Tull at its Tullest, I would say, if such thing exists, because Tull is always at its Tullest. The quirks and idiosyncrasies of Ian Anderson seemingly never end. Ian Anderson, for those of you who don't know, is the leader of the band. He does all the concepts and writes the vast majority of the music. He plays flute and sings, and sometimes grabs all kinds of interesting and unusual instruments, anything from a harpsichord to a balalaika to all kind of things that most people never even heard of. He even played some sort of simplified saxophone on one of the records. Again, this one, from beginning to end, an absolute banger, difficult to pick out favorites. Society, You're a Woman, the last song on the record, is pretty often cited as a favorite, big personal favorite for me as well. To Cry You a Song is the other one. Again, a lot of fans love it and cite it as the greatest song off the album. Teacher, With You Here to Help Me is another one. That's the opening song. Nothing to Say. Great record, beginning to end. Super classic Tull. And I would say that this ranks very high among my favorites, as does Stand Up. Comparing Stand Up to Benefit, one could say that Benefit is a little bit more, what would be the good word for this, more professional or more bandy. The band congeals better. It's a little bit more put together, more professional, but I think overall I still prefer Stand Up, although not by a wide margin. And next up is one, or if not the poster child for Jethro Tull, Aqualung, Sitting on a Park Bench Bump. This is a very iconic record. Anyone who is not even familiar with Jethro Tull knows this record. Anyone who is even slightly into prog rock or anything like that, or 70s rock, and will tell you that they know Aqualung. So this is one of their most famous records. A very good record, but at least in my opinion, and I know some people don't like hearing this, it's a little bit overrated. It sounds to me like it was a little bit of a rushed record. They could have polished it and worked it out better. Nonetheless, great songs. Locomotive Breath, this is an eternal anthem for Tull, and countless other bands covered it. Very good song. Of course, the title song, Aqualung, My God, the first song on the second side. Great song, great composition, quirky with all kinds of changes and complicated things. Cross-Eyed Mary, kind of a little anthemic. Maiden covered it. Cheap Day Return, Wandering Aloud. Mother Goose is a good song. So, good record, begin to end. Here it's easier to pick out favorites because not all of them are that great. So it is a great album. In my opinion, it's squarely behind Stand Up and Benefit. Not by a country mile, by a small step, but nevertheless behind. Next up is another poster child for Jethro Tull. Oh my God, how is this thing packaged here? It's this guy, Thick as a Brick. This is a very good album, and most Tull fans, as well as a lot of people who are into Tull but not into prog, but not necessarily that much into Tull, also respect. So this is one of their best known records alongside Aqualung. I would say that Aqualung is their most famous, best known record, and this one is probably a close second. So it comes wrapped in a newspaper. It opens like this and has a bunch of pages that you can turn and read the newspaper. The music itself, this is played out or recorded as one long composition, but it's really many other songs cobbled together. But it's all called Thick as a Brick. It plays out. Really don't mind if you sit one out. And it plays on. It was written by a little boy, a 14-year-old boy, 12 years old. How old was he? Age 12. This little guy. And they had this article about him in the St. Cleve Chronicle, which is a small local newspaper. This little guy wrote the lyrics. and last I checked, Ian Anderson tricked him into writing over his rights to the lyrics, so that Ian Anderson to this day gets royalties from the poem that this little guy wrote. And apparently also impregnated his girlfriend, who at the time was 14. And I don't know if she gets any royalties for that kid, but it's a very interesting composition. It's worth sitting it out. It's been said later on that this was recorded as a satire over prog rock, because Ian Anderson didn't like being called prog rock. But it's a good solid record. It's not a normal record. This is not something that you would call as a mainstream regular record. One long composition, which is pretty good. There's very good. There are very good segments in it. Great guitar playing as usual for Martin Barre. I really like him as a guitar player. I think that he doesn't get enough credit, neither as a member of Jethro Tull, as a guitar player. Usually people talk about the usual suspects, right? Clapton, Van Halen, Jimmy Page, those guys. And I think he really belongs in that group. All in all, a great, solid record, worth having. One of the most famous, and I would say on par with Aqualung. Great, but not the greatest. And interesting. It's a good listen. Definitely worth listening from time to time. And one of their most famous, typically there are outtakes that are played on radio or in concerts. So obviously they don't play the entire composition. Good record. Next up, I will show you this record, which is typically considered a compilation, which in a way it is, but it is not in a compilation in the sense of a best of or greatest hits. These are outtakes, all kind of songs that were left out of previous studio sessions, a lot of live versions of songs that you cannot hear anywhere else, and there were a couple of non-album singles. So they've compiled here what has been left off over the course of the years. So I guess this early in their career they were able to pull off something like this. And the packaging is real nice. There's a booklet with big photos. It's a little bit difficult to show it to the camera, but there's quite a few pages here with photos of the band, and then the two records. This one is actually a record sleeve, and then there's a couple of pages that are not record sleeves, and you can see Ian Anderson with his bombastic stage antics early on in their concerts, when they didn't have yet money for a full production and for a lot of props. Then they would just fool around. Ian Anderson would climb up on a curtain very high, and I don't know if it ever happened, but I think there's a good likelihood that once or twice the curtain did rip and fall off the curtain holder. All in all, this is not your typical greatest hits best of compilation. So even if you're a fan and you have all or most of the albums, this one is definitely worth a listen. And they have some alternate versions of the songs. Some of their good songs are over here. There's a very good live version of Dharma for One, and a couple of unreleased tracks, like the title itself, Living in the Past, Singing All Day, Witch's Promise, and like I said, the very good live version of Dharma for One, which is from the first record. Next up is, I think, the first time that I should say something not super nice about Jethro Tull. I think that they got a little bit over their heads. After Thick as a Brick, they should have closed the chapter and move on and do something else. Who knows, maybe the producers or the management asked them to do something similar, but again, this is a similar idea, similar concept to Thick as a Brick. The music is completely different. It looks like this is a much more worked out process, much more of a group process. The band is more together, the compositions are more quirky, more complicated, if you will. There's all different kinds of music, all different kinds of instruments here. And with that, I won't say it falls flat on its face, but I think that it fails to accomplish what it wants. So kind of to top Thick as a Brick or be a Thick as a Brick number 2. It's like those Olympic jumpers that have to jump over a rod and they touch the rod and the rod falls, kind of that. So I don't listen to it a lot. It's a good record, an interesting record, definitely worth a listen or 2 or 3, but after a while it kind of gets old and it's not all that interesting, at least to me. In the middle there's kind of a funny story interrupts, and then it kind of takes you to a completely different state of mind, if you will. It's comic, it's a joke, and he tells a funny story there, and the music is like very simplistic, like children, just with a simple keyboard. So again, a good record, a good chapter in the history of Jethro Tull, but I think we could have done without it. But if you will, that's also kind of an interesting experiment. Or he could have released it as a solo, Ian Anderson solo album, which will come up later on. Next up is this very, very good record, in my opinion. Not everybody shares this opinion. A lot of Tull fans will tell you that this is where they went wrong, this is when they went RA, this is where they went commercial. I love the record very much. It has the great hit Bungle in the Jungle, which is a great song. Skating Away on the Thin Ice of the New Day, this is one that I probably like the most on the record. There's also the opening track War Child, which is very good. Queen and Country is good. Only Solitaire, I like that. So this is a departure, let's just say, from what we would expect from Jethro Tull. This is something that you would have expected later on in the decade. There's nothing disco or funk here, and even the commercialism is not very obvious. So it's not bubblegum, Bon Jovi or whatever you want to call that, but it's going a little bit in that direction. Simpler, shorter songs, something that you would have expected from later albums. It's a little polished, a little smooth, but again, great playing from all the musicians. Martin, of course, Martin Barre and Ian Anderson doing their shtick, and of course with the help of the rest of the band, who keeps changing. I don't think that they really had the same exact lineup on 2 consecutive albums. And then next up, something interesting happens. They release this banger, Minstrel in the Gallery, and I agree with the majority of fans that this is one of their best records. It's excellent. It's a return to their pre-Thick as a Brick record. It has a lot of Aqualung flavor in it, but it also has a little bit of Vishwas and Benefit, and even a little bit of War Child. That might surprise some people, but I think you can feel a little bit of the War Child flavor. However, one interesting tidbit about this record is that when I picked it up, when I bought it, I instinctively put it after Aqualung or after Living in the Past. And I was convinced that War Child came out later, even though I looked at the years, but somehow it doesn't register. So it's kind of a situation like Deep Purple with Fireball, right? Typically, you have In Rock, and you expect that the next record is Machine Head. And no, there's Fireball in between them, right? It sounds like it was In Rock, Machine Head, then Fireball, then who do we think we are? No, Fireball came before, and with Machine Head they kind of went back a step back. So this is pretty much the same or similar idea, similar concept with this record. Cold Wind to Valhalla, an absolute banger. So is the Bake Street Muse, kind of another quirky, a little bit of a Aqualung / Thick as a Brick flavor. Black Satin Dancer, Requiem, Cold Wind to Valhalla, as I told you, that's an absolute banger. So is Minster in the Gallery. Very good playing, very good music. So this is an absolute must-have, even if you're not a huge Tull fan. And again, like I said, just like we had that funny situation with Deep Purple, we have the same thing here. We have this, which sounds more of a follow-up for War Child than for Minstrel in the Gallery. This album, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't really do it for me. It has this cool in your face, giving you the it has this cartoon right inside, which tells the story of a rock star, and which is obviously not based at all on Ian Anderson. This is on one Ray Lomas, who has a famous rock band and everybody likes him and is famous, and then fashions change, people don't like his band anymore. He has a motorcycle accident because he's all angry that his management dropped him and his records are not selling, and then when he comes out of the hospital, all of a sudden he's fashionable again. So Anderson making fun of the changing fads, and of course today we can all relate to this because we know that fads are coming and going. We remember the big heavy metal craze of the 80s, and then in the 90s there was something else, and now there's again sort of a return to new wave of traditional heavy metal. To be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of this record. It's not bad, but it kind of goes nowhere. The songs are not that memorable. It sounds a little bit tired. It sounds a little bit like they ran out of ideas. It's not very enthusiastic. There's some good musicianship, good playing, as you would expect from Martin Barre and Anderson and the drummer and the rest of the band. Big Dipper is a good one, from a deadbeat to an old geezer to an old greaser. I'm sorry. And the title track is not bad. Salamander, Pied Piper is a good song, but it's not grand. It's a Jethro Tull record that belongs in the Jethro Tull library. It's there, but I don't listen to it too often. I'll put it on from time to time. It has some good moments, definitely. And the follow-up to this is a crazy record. Here, all of a sudden, they found themselves, they come up with something that is fresh and new and original without being crazy. They started to incorporate a lot of folk music and folk-ish ideas. I love the back sleeve. Look how they put that record player on a stump. I think that should have been on the front sleeve, or they should have put Anderson in front of this instead of the fire. That would have been better on the back sleeve. But back to the music itself, an absolute banger. They're in tip-top shape. Good ideas, good songs. Back to more normal songwriting, so shorter 5, 6, 4-minute songs. From beginning to end, all the songs are great. The Whistler, one of my favorite. Hunting Girl, Ring Out Solstice Bells, Velvet Green, Pibroch, Jack in the Green, great songs. Songs from the Wood, the title song, the opening song, Cup of Wonder. Really a very good, beautiful album. Ranks very high in my book in the Jethro Tull hierarchy, if you will. On the next record, some of you will have to forgive me, especially hardcore Tull fans, but this is my all-time favorite record. Heavy Horses, 1978, phenomenal record. They refined the sound and the musicianship of Songs from the Wood. Just like the previous album, everyone on this record is a banger. Acres Wild, Ranger, Heavy Horses, the title song, Weathercock, The Mouthpiece Never Sleep, Acres Wild, I said already, Journeyman, amazing song, No Lullaby. They're all very good, solid record. I love it. And a lot of hardcore Jethro Tull fans claim that this is where they lost their uniqueness, their progginess, their lack of commerciality. I don't hear it. I hear a very well made, well played, well produced, well written record, and this is my all-time favorite, and those around it as well. I would say definitely in my top 10 you would put this, Stand Up, Benefit, not Heavy Horses, I meant the one, this is the number one, but the one before, Songs from the Wood, and as we shall see, the one after this. Then in '78 they released a live recording, which is a true live recording, as opposed to what is to come later on. But again, that's not so much the band that is to blame. To be honest with you, I am not a huge fan of this live recording. It's more of the quality of the recording, but it doesn't sound really good. Some songs are very good on here, but they have a great version of Skating Away, and a good outtake from Thick as a Brick, and a good or different interpretation of A New Day Yesterday. Locomotive Breath comes through good, but I'm not a huge fan of this live recording. They don't sound as good as you would expect them, or as good as they should. A good snapshot of a live recording, but there are better ones, and I think that they are a lot of different performances from different tours cobbled together here. So on this one, I'm not a huge fan. But here we are coming back to post Heavy Horses, Stormwatch, and this is another one that hardcore Tull fans love to hate. Even more so than Heavy Horses, but in my book, it ranks very high. It's right there on the top, in the top 10, maybe even top 5. Like I said, I would go Heavy Horses. This was, Heavy Horses, Stand Up, Benefit, Songs from the Wood, and Stormwatch, maybe. Almost definitely in the top 10. Great song, again, a great, very well made, very well produced, very well put together record. Not so long, crazy compositions, not trying to be Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Don Ringill, Flying Dutchman, Orion, Dark Ages, North Sea Oil, Something's on the Move. Great, just a great song, a great record with great songs on it, and a very solid, good sounding record. Maybe a little bit too smooth, maybe a little bit too on the radio friendly commercial kind of style production, and they will continue going in the direction for a while, but there will be some changes in their history and approach. So let's give them a little rest and come out